I'm doing something with my hands. It's on the camera. Okay. I got my nails done yesterday.
Okay, so now we're in action. Now you go around and see what you see. Go around.
Oh, okay.
Good. We get this part up. Make sure.
It looks like it's cutting your head off just a little bit. Come. Let's see. You know what? I want to
tilt it a little bit.
Tilt it a little bit up.
Because I couldn't get you, and then I
okay,
it back this way towards me.
Yeah. Okay, now go back. Wait a minute. No.
You tilting it up. You got to tilt it.
Yeah, because it was cutting your head off. So come.
Yeah, but to not cut the head off, you got to tilt it back like this. And see.
No, because now I'm seeing the floor.
Now it's cut. Oh, I see what you're doing.
Right.
You're going up like this.
Right, because it was cutting the top of your head off. Okay, don't go back any further. Come right there. Okay, I think that's, I think that'll work.
See me? Okay.
Okay.
And you're not as tall, but I hit you perfectly.
Right, yeah, it was cutting the top of your head off.
Okay, see, you still in there.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Okay, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. This is me, Ms. Rhonda B. from Voices of Mass Discussion. I have with me today a dynamic young lady, and she has a great story to tell, as all my guests do. And so she's written a book, she's a motivational speaker, and she's an educator. So we have a lot of things in common. In case you can't tell, we're standing up because sometimes you have to improvise. Right. So our original taping location, we got sort of diverted. Today what's going on is she's teaching, she's doing a workshop. For anyone who's out there who's interested in developing a website, if you have your own business, your own hobby, or any reason. Today people have websites just because they want to. Right. And so she has a workshop that she's doing. There was a double session. They already had one session this morning, and then now we're going to do this in between the lunch hour.
That's right. Got to maximize every moment.
Right. Then we're going to get back over there. She's going to teach another group, and then she has to run out to a meeting this evening. So I appreciate her for squeezing us in. And because I wanted to introduce you to her, I wanted her to share her story. And then as always, you know, I try to educate, motivate, and uplift everyone.
All right.
So if you go on her website, you'll see T. Grace. So when I stopped there, Michael said, totally graceful.
Not at all. Grace is my middle name, Talayl Grace, but I do not live up to it.
Okay, so her name is Talayl Grace, which is a pretty name in itself. And then luck would have it, the heat didn't come on, but that's okay. We're going to keep talking. And I'm going to let her introduce herself. She has a wonderful book that's about to be released. She's also had a couple of books already. So I'm going to include in either in the article, or I'm going to try to incorporate it into a clip here, a copy of the cover of her book, because by us changing pace, of course we didn't bring it over here with us because we didn't go quite as planned. So I'm going to let her tell her story. I'm going to tell her about the workshop and so many things. I met her a few years ago because, as you guys know, I follow and try to support the growth of Sylvia Frederick, the singer, and she does that annual Happy Love Breakfast that we tape her each year. So one particular year we were taping it, she was the guest speaker, and I thought she was pretty excellent myself, so I've been following her since. So now first we're going to start with your name. Your name is pretty and it's different, so tell them your name.
I am Talayl Stovall, and the G stands for Grace, as we said, so the company name is T. Grace, but the website is TalayLStovall.com.
Okay. Yeah. And then, as a profession, you do what?
I am an author, speaker, and life purpose coach. And Rhonda said she wanted me to share a little of my story with you. I always like to start off and say that whenever I've ever been passionate about anything, I always have to put it in writing. So when I was a little girl, whenever I get upset with someone, I would write them a letter detailing the heinous crimes they committed against me and why I wasn't going to be their friend anymore. And my brother called them hate notes because he got most of them.
Right.
But by the time I was 14, I knew that I wanted to be an author. But like many of us, I didn't really have enough confidence in my light bulb moments, which is the one that's being released now, I've had people pre-purchase the books. In both cases, it was someone who was not the likely audience for my book, but they believed in my dream, they tapped into my passion, and when we are living in our purpose and tapping into that passion that we have, other people are going to see it, they're going to recognize it, and they're going to support you. You're going to get support from places you don't even realize once you start living your passion. So, in a nutshell, that's my life. I am now, this is my first publishing deal. I'm very excited that I got the deal from Hay House. I entered the contest. Out of 4,000 submissions, my manuscript won. So I believe that that was divinely ordained, and I always tell people, instead of trying to kick down doors by ourselves, we need to just walk through the doors that God opens. So that's what I'm doing today.
And you know what's interesting? We actually have a lot in common, except for I wasn't quite as smart, obviously. Because when, and this is funny, this is really comical about how things happen in life. Where we're taping, the heater came on, so if you hear that noise in the background, all during her speech.
Right.
And then now it's my turn to talk, and it's gone off. So that is all part of the story. But anyway, when I had gone away to school at the time, I didn't have a particular vision or a passion.
Right.
I'm just going because that's what they told us we need to do. And so at the time, when I was graduating, they had computers was a coming thing.
Yeah.
And because I was doing well in high school, I was going to major in computer science. But unlike her, when I got to college, at the time I thought I didn't have the aptitude, even though now I know I didn't have the attitude.
Okay.
So it's like, oh my God, I have to quit college because there's no way I can do this. And then met a gentleman who, he used to teach karate at the Harris YMCA here in Chicago. Not YMCA, but YWCA.
Right.
And he said, no, and I was at Purdue. He said, you would not be at Purdue if you didn't have the aptitude.
Right.
He said, so now you need to change your attitude and you'll come through those doors.
Wow.
So I still didn't do the computer science though. And he said that wasn't the point. He said the point is, this is why it's so interesting about your book, and this was 30-some years ago.
Right.
He said the point is, it's not about your major, but about your passion.
That's so true.
And then and what he shared with me is, if you don't know what to major in, then it doesn't make any difference. Just go into school and pick a major. Because you're not passionate about anything anyway. So you'll get that behind you.
Right. And I tell people, a lot of people aren't really sure what their passion is. And I tell people, if you don't know, ask someone who's close to you. Because just like when I was in corporate America, they recognized that if they wanted something written, they should come to me. If they wanted something presented, they should come to me. People recognize what you do well, and everybody has those natural gifts that are built in. We all have at least one, but some have two or three.
Right.
And I found out through taking assessments, which are very powerful too. I do an assessment called The Call. It tells exactly how you're wired. Your motivational gifts that we all have, your interests, your personality, your thinking style, all of that goes into shaping you for your purpose. So I discovered, after finding it out on my own, that my gifts are teaching and empowering, and that's exactly what I'm doing. It plays out in various ways, as you said, teaching at Columbia, doing my own workshops, doing the speaking engagements, through my writing. It comes out in all of those different ways, but it's things that other people also recognized in me. So if anyone in your audience is not sure about what their passion is or what their purpose is, ask someone around you. They can tell you, you bake the best cookies I've ever had, or you are the one who's always organizing things. They can tell you what it is you're good at, and then take note of that. And use that.
And I haven't read her book yet, but doing the research and looking at what her message is, one of the things that I've taken away from it, even though I haven't seen the book, I'm not sure if this is in there, is that even though we as humans listen often to what other people say about us, we have a tendency to buy the bad and discard the good, which should be the reverse.
Right.
When someone tells you something about you that you don't buy about yourself, then you have to have two bags. One is to keep, and the one is to discard. So when they tell you something, even if you think it's true, but that's not the you want to be, you put it in the discard bag. And then the things that you hear often, that's why, and I'm in the public school system, that's why it's so hard to educate our young people. It's because you cannot, it's difficult to educate a moving target.
Right.
And no one accepts that and talks about the reality that the inner city child is a moving target. They're not uneducatable, contrary to all the statistics and stuff. They're a moving target. And the reason why they're a moving target is because when they come to school, that's only one element of an entire life. So you don't have you don't have people like her there telling them that keep moving and you're going to end up somewhere.
Right. And you know, they say that it takes 5 positive messages to overcome one negative. And a lot of times the negative messages are coming from us, because we can be our own worst critic. And I do talk about that in the book, how to defeat our own negative thinking.
And we hold the bad, though, because you know, this is one thing I try to get other young people, because she and I have a lot of things in common, because actually I am, my master's degree is in training and development. So I do a lot of workshops, seminars, motivational pieces. And one of the things similar to what she's written about is I try to get people to understand, if you meet 50 people and they've all told you, you look like a model, or you could be a model. Even though you have no desire, no passion to be a model, the Supreme Being is sending you a message. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to be a model, because there's a lot of territory between being a model in that industry. So you know, you need to hear the message. Instead, for what they hold on to is that person said, oh my God, you're so tall. And you walking around slumping, and all these other people told you look like a model, so you should be standing tall and proud of it.
Yeah, we are good at picking the negative messages instead of the positive. Yeah. And you said you hadn't read the book yet, and just to give your audience an idea of what it is, it's called Light Bulb Moments, 75 Lessons for Everyday Living. And it's about those times we all go through challenging times, and we all go through good times. And sometimes I get messages from the simplest little things in life. I can be walking on the lakefront or just on the treadmill, and all of a sudden some issue that I'm dealing with, the solution becomes clear, the message becomes clear. And I, for example, one of the messages, one of the vignettes in the book I talk about, a friend of mine was telling me about how she was making some soup, and it took her 4 days to make this soup. And so, because each day it just wasn't quite right, and so she would add a little, she'd tweak a little, and she kept putting it back in the refrigerator, pull it out, taste it the next day, it wasn't quite right, she'd add a little to it. And as she's talking, I'm getting the message. A lot of times in life, we want something right away. There's something we want, and we just got to have it right now. We're in that microwave society. But sometimes we got to let the seasonings go through. We got to wait until the timing is right, until everything is falling in place just right. And then we get the final product, is what we really, it's full of flavor, and it's robust, and it's what we really deserve in the end. So that's just one of the examples of how those messages just come to me through various means that help me to apply them to life, and then I help the readers to understand how to apply it to their life.
Yeah, well, Oprah always say you have that
the aha moment, and I call them light bulb moments. It's the same thing, yeah.
And you know what, and something that I reflect on often, like I say, the gentleman who encouraged me to go back to school, his name was Purdue, and I was attending Purdue University. His name was Mr. Purdue. But what he told me back then is that a lot of things, similar to what you're saying, listen to what other people are saying to you, because that's really your inner voice coming out outside of you. Because what other people are saying to you, you've heard it so many times. And so, but a lot of times what you consider to be your negative is often your strength. That's why sometimes you'll be going through life and something will occur and you will swear on your life and a stack of Bible that you had lived that scenario before. That's when you had your light bulb moment. You'll be like, oh my God. And you can give the outcome because you feel you are, it's like it's deja vu when it's really not. It's that awareness or that awakening or that aha or, you know, whatever moment it is in your life that you need to listen to.
Yeah, and sometimes those moments are as simple just about appreciating the things that we already have. I remember once I was cleaning out my closet and I found a suit in the back of the closet that I hadn't worn for years. And I thought, why aren't I wearing this suit? I pulled it out and I wore it to church that next Sunday. It's a black pantsuit. I got so many compliments on that suit, and I thought about what are the things that we have already in our lives that we're not appreciating? We've shoved them in the back, whether it's people, whether it's things. And we need to kind of sometimes go back and reevaluate and pull some things to the front. There may be some people we're not spending enough time with in our lives, and we need to pull that person to the front.
That's really important. As you age, you take it for granted when you're young. But you know something else I remember from Mr. Purdue is he told me, he said, Rhonda, if you don't have a purpose or a direction, why don't you share your time with someone who does?
That's a good.
See, that's a lot of times how you can discover where you're really supposed to go. Because God gave you a direction.
Right.
You may not recognize it. You may not even be following it. But he gave you, and you know what, in that scene, like, you know, I'm sure at the time, 17, 18, 19 years old, I'm like, most people like, whatever. But to me, that seemed like so profound today when, you know, because like I said, I'm in the school system, and you'll see kids with talent, and, you know, and then they're just like miserable kids. They're doing nothing. Then you have another aspiring child, and then someone can play the drums, and this other kid is trying to sing, but he can't play the drum.
Right.
And so then to me, I tell the kids who can play the drum, why don't you at least play? Oh, I don't care about that. Or what? I know, but that's all the more reason why you should play the drums for him. Because you're not doing anything anyway.
Exactly.
You don't care. It won't cost you anything. And then you could be the inspiration for this young child who is trying. I'm not just always talking about kids. It's just that I see it so often. And so then a lot of times with kids, they don't care. And so then they'll start doing it. Play the drum. And then they'll come back that next year. And they're so passionate.
Right.
And sometimes it's not even about playing the drum, but they found something in the process.
Exactly. If you're too busy doing something positive, you're going to eventually stumble into your purpose, even if it's not what you initially started doing. And sometimes you're on a path for a reason. You don't know why. I wasn't in engineering school, obviously, to be an engineer. But some of the people that I met during that time are still good friends of mine to this day. Some of the experiences I have play into who I am today. So you can never look down on what you're going through at the time, because it's something that's building you to where you have to go.
And then not only that, you could very well, this is another thing too, and I did a lot of different things, because if it interests me, I'm pretty much going to try to do it.
The same way. People say, what do you do again? I'm a lifelong learner. It sounds like you are too. And most people who have the teaching gifts are lifelong learners. So we just get interested in everything, and we want to do everything.
And when somebody asks me what to do, that's why I really try not to say what I do, because in a nutshell, it's like, okay, what is it you're interested in? I bet you I do it. Or some kind of way, some facet, or used to do it. But anyway, but what I'm going to say about the many facets of different things that you do is a lot of times your growth, it doesn't have anything to do with yesterday.
Right.
Because yesterday, because you know, over the years, and then, like I said, I'm interviewing her because I do a weekly cable talk show, and those of you guys who are looking pretty much know that. And I started long years ago in the 80s. For different reasons, though. I was a sales manager, so I was doing it as a soft sale. You mentioned in marketing, so you know about that, as a soft sale promotion. And then I used to do radio and the TV. That was part of how I was marketing the company. But in the interim, like she said, in the engineering, how many people you've met?
Right.
Do you know how many people that do video production with us that started off, there's lawyers who videotape weddings.
Right.
And you know, and then you're looking like the money, the time, you have a family to take care of. But what they enjoy doing is they're videotaping wedding, something that without the law degree, somebody may even look down on. But it was in them, and they're like, well, okay, I went to law school because that's what was expected, because my dad was a lawyer, or you know, or because I got married. But their inner self is something else. The creativity, you know, and they absolutely love it. At the school, and there was a teacher there that I always used to tease, because he was a lawyer, he used to be an elected official, he used to be a lot of different things. And now you're teaching at an inner city school, clearly did not need the money, because a lot of times you would find his check, and they made him do direct deposit. Because he didn't even know where they were half the time. It's like, what in the world are you doing here? But he wasn't there to be a teacher per se, but he was there for, he was on a path to something.
Exactly. And you never know in your path, even the people you cross paths with. I tell people, because people look at the book that's coming out and they say, you know, you got Les Brown did the foreword, Mark Victor Hansen's one of the Chicken Soup authors, he did a testimonial, Jim Stovall is a Christian author and movie maker, George Fraser, Dr. Miles Monroe, I'm sure you're familiar with. And they say, how'd you get all these people? Well, as you are going through life, you meet people. If you're doing positive things, you get to know people. And I worked with George Fraser on events he would do in Chicago. I worked with Les Brown on things he would do in Chicago. I was just working with them, helping them, like you say, get involved in something that somebody's doing. I didn't know at the time that I was going to want them to do that. So when we're meeting people and as we're networking, doing positive things, don't look for always what you're going to get out of it immediately. It's not about the immediate gratification, immediate gain. just do something positive, get involved with positive people, and down the road, you never know what's going to happen.
And you have to trust what you believe, whether it's God,
right,
you know, whatever religion, if you're spiritual.
Exactly.
Like myself, I'm a spiritual person. I don't know whether there's a God or Jesus. This is Easter weekend. I don't know anything about all that. But I do know there's something greater than me that talks to me.
Okay.
And so that spirit leads you somewhere. And normally it leads you to where you need to be.
Right.
That's how people end up. It's an accident, it's a coincidence, or I shouldn't even been there, or I don't know how that happened. Because that inner self sent you where you needed to be. It didn't need your permission.
Exactly.
What it needs your permission is for you to follow through.
And the thing is, we get so busy sometimes that we tune out that inner voice, and we miss, and then afterwards say, man, I should have listened to that. I can tell you so many examples of times that that's happened that I've listened, and times that I haven't listened, and I wished I did. I think the last newsletter article that you just saw, I talked about how that voice told me to go back and get a cookie when I really didn't want a cookie, but it saved me from having a car accident. So you do have to learn to listen to that guidance. So when you hear something, sometimes we have to be still for a little while, because we're so busy rushing around trying to do everything. Sometimes we have to take some downtime and just meditate and reflect and let that voice speak to us.
And that light bulb moment that she makes reference to, a lot of times something that had come to you, that voice that you ignored, caught yourself walking around, and then it hits you front and center. And then the light bulb be like, oh my God, have I done that last year or yesterday, or have I had not done that? And you know, speaking, and I had a paradigm shift in my life, my entire direction changed because I had a car accident. I had gotten off the expressway, and by mistake, I had made a left, turned around in a gas station. Listen, had to use the washroom, but did not go. Was too busy focused on where I was going. Listen, they take pictures. Too busy focused on where I was going, but I have to use the washroom. So then I'm on this, and I'm way out there in Kane County, so you know all this over road. I decided to go into a different gas station, made a left to go into the gas station, got hit by this truck. And so, of course, the light bulb moment is the spirit led me to where I needed to be. I went in this gas station parking lot to turn around, and then I allowed my conscious mind to say, I'll wait.
Well, yeah, I told you about the car accident I avoided by listening. I didn't tell you about the one that I didn't avoid, because I kept arguing with the voice and saying, I'm not going to be in a car accident. What do you mean? No, I'm not. And then a couple minutes later, it happened. So you're right.
And you know what? And see, when I was a young person, you know, my early 20s, late teens, I have an aunt who's now deceased, but she was a student of the Johnny Coleman New Thought. It was New Thought at that point. Now it's commonplace. But at the time, Johnny Coleman was teaching to make that inner voice a purposeful voice, a purposeful voice. You know, which means that the voice that you hear, the inner voice that usually leads you in the right direction, that if you start doing it on purpose, then you can guide and lead yourself in a better direction.
And that's why it's so important. I believe in the power of vision. And creating a vision board, because everything that's ever created is first created in our minds, and if we can make those thoughts so much a part of us, the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's really happening and what we think is happening. So if we convince ourselves that we're going to be successful, happy, in good shape, have a well-decorated home, whatever it is we want, and we create that representation both in our minds and even stronger visually to put it out there, and we focus on this every day, our bodies just automatically starts carrying out what it needs to do in order to get us to the state that we believe we're about to be in. So I think you're right. We just need to tap into changing those thoughts, channeling the negative into positive, and really believing what it is that we want to see in our future.
And one of the things, hopefully, for those of you guys who did get her book, and if you don't get that particular book, you go on her website, because she do have some other things that she's written, and I noticed there was an ebook on there.
And CDs, audio CDs.
And they all go with that same message, is that you have it in you. Trust that.
Exactly.
You know, just trust yourself, and then realize what difference does it make? Because if you have a vision, say you had the vision to be a model, you just wanted to be a model, and you went out and you took classes on the runway trying to be a model, and then 10 years later you were not a model. What difference does it make? You just end up
still look good, and you're still graceful,
and you learned so much along the way. And not only that, if you end up not being a model, you wasn't going to be one if you never tried it anyway.
That's true.
So you absolutely have no. She said, that's true, and I picked this up from reading on her website. Not that example, but I picked that message up. And she said, okay, that sounds good. Then she said, oh, no wonder it sounds so good. but anyway, if you go and read some of her other things, you'll get what'll come, at least it came to my mind, is that the time went past anyway. So if you spend 10 years trying to be a model, a basketball player, or whatever it was, and it didn't happen, there's so many positive things that did happen along the way. And what you end up discovering is you were not meant to be a model. You were in training to be what you ended up being.
Exactly.
You know?
Because sometimes you're in the public view, that those model skills will still come in handy.
And there's so much more to being a model than what's on the runway. Because you'll find out, oh, I love taking pictures. Something you never would have known had you not tried to be a model. And I'm not trying to send anyone in direction. It doesn't matter what you pick. Because I don't know if you remember this from a kid, but when we were young, they had this thing out called the pet rock.
I remember the pet rock.
That thing, just like the Beanie Babies, the people made millions.
Yeah.
So the point is just do it anyway.
Exactly.
Do you know how many people had to tell them they were crazy? To come up with a pet rock and think somebody's going to buy it? But they did. It was a craze.
Exactly. So if you have an idea, a passion, something you strongly believe in, do it anyway. I think my mom used to tell me I had to go to law school. I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer, but I remember I was trying to give her excuses. Oh, I'll be 40 by the time I got a lawyer. She said, you're going to be 40 anyway. But the point is to do something positive with the time that you have. And you don't know what impact you're making on the lives of other people. Just like I had no idea that the event that you saw me speak at years ago, that you were still thinking about that you looked at my website, but you don't know whatever it is that you're doing, you're inspiring somebody. So it's important to...
She had a red dress, a black hat. And listen, I was just there taking the pictures and videotaping it. But I just felt, first of all, even when she came in, I just felt she had a good spirit. And then, like I said, and then since then, I've read things that, that she's written about, or, sometimes she'll tell what she's in the process of doing. And so it is just, there's always a message. And then when this book came out, like the Light Bulb Moment, I'm like, okay, that's one of those, like, aha, okay. And so many people need to listen to, then I started reading, contacting her for the interview, I started reading. It's like, okay, that inner voice, you need to listen to that inner voice because it has an outer message.
Wow.
So, So then I'm like, let her tell her story. At first I was just going to write about it. Then I'm like, okay, but then I'm writing from my perspective, and that's why I love the videos.
Right.
And that's why I love the radio, because then you can invite the people to tell their story.
That's true.
And I still get to tell my version. And then you'll see, because sometimes I'll be telling my version, and the person will be like, no, I did not mean that.
Right. Yeah, I've had some articles that way. Like my first book was a relationship book, and it's all about how you have to be yourself, become what you seek. So instead of looking for qualities in somebody else, we get out of those negative mindsets to talk about the doormat, the door prize, and become that doorbell. Well, so I did interviews with magazines on that and newspaper, and so one article, I was just talking about the premises in the book, and then the next thing I knew, the article came out, it sounded like, desperate woman can't find a husband. That's not what the book is about. So you have to write your own story. That's a good way of saying it. If you don't write your own story, somebody will write it for you. So whatever it is that you need to do. And I was just thinking one of the book was 75 lessons for everyday living, but I sneaked in a 76th lesson because the book had been finished and edited and everything, and I met this impressive woman. She's just about this tall. She was 90 years old. I met her at an airport in Nebraska, and this woman had so much energy and fire, and just a childlike wonder for the world, and I just fell in love with her. And so we just talked. We sat on the plane. There was only about 7 of us on the plane. It was almost tiny little one seat on each side. But I just fell in love with her, and I had to include her story at the end. Even though I've written some more stuff for the next book, I said I can't wait till the next book to tell her story, because she inspired me so much that you're never too old to have that passion and that zest for life. She was 90 years old. She was running through the airport showing how much energy she had, and a lot of times we give up because we think we're too old. We're never too old.
And let me share with you as we close out, because she do have to get back to class, and I'm going to try to tape a little bit of while we're over there. But you know what? But another thing, too, what you have to realize, or if anybody's ever had a life-altering moment, then you'll realize that none of that stuff ever mattered. Like I said, my favorite aunt passed away, so no matter what she thought was important,
that's true.
It doesn't matter. And the same way was me with the accident. I'm just like flying high on my own, just had that upper middle class life.
Yeah.
And then with that accident, my entire life changed.
Wow.
So whatever I thought was important, it didn't matter. Because first of all, I was in the hospital. You know, you had this hemoglobin, this big swelling on your brain. So with that, it's like, if that swelling doesn't go down, you're gonna wish you were dead because you'll be brain. You know, you won't be brain dead, but you won't be yourself anymore. You'll be brain altered. So you had that going on, and so anything else that I thought was significant didn't matter. So therefore, as you're going through, and then and that's why it's a blessing. People like you write, take a moment and put those moments in writing, and then a person's reading through. It's like, okay, why am I stressing out about this? I'll try it. If it works, it's fine. And if it doesn't, I've learned something.
And you learned by coming through that experience that you're here for a greater purpose.
Yeah.
And then the rest of your life, you're inspiring people to be their best too, just by the example of what you went through.
Be the you that you want to be, because the rest of it doesn't matter.
It's your destiny. Stay in your lane. You do what it is that you're called to do. Don't worry about what. I wish I could sing. I would love to be able to sing, but I can't.
I write songs. And people always ask me, can you sing? Not a lick.
Yeah. You got to do what you're gifted and what you're called to do.
But I write these songs, listen, like I'm ready to put out an album and a hit. And when I was really, before my accident, I used to do motivational workshops and seminars.
Yeah.
Okay, so for each one, I would have a motivational poem or a song. I had graduated to a song. So there was a lady that had heard me on the radio talking about the seminar, time I had written this song. I wanted to do it, but I can't sing. Do you know, the lady called me up and she sang my song.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, she sure did.
See?
At first I'm thinking like,
you put it out there, write the song. You don't have to sing it, somebody else will sing it.
That lady called me up.
Teamwork.
And then I'm thinking like, that is so cute, sweetheart. I said, but I don't have any money to go to the studio and produce a song. And then there was this other gentleman who you know, I mean, we don't know him together, but we both mutually know him. And so then he had a studio. At that time he was growing, but he had him his home. He says, well, she wanted to sing the song for free. He said, then you guys come and I'll produce the song.
Wonderful.
I'm thinking like, no way, what's the catch? But we did. He, like he said, as long as I wasn't trying to make any money, which I wasn't, I was just doing my seminar.
Yeah.
And she sang the song, he recorded the song, and I played on the radio. You would think it was like the best song in the world.
I'm sure it was. And that's what happens when you live in your purpose.
Yeah.
Things come together like that. You don't have to look for help. Those doors start opening and you just...
And at the end, see, what difference does it make? If I wrote the song, it doesn't matter. If I had never written it, it wouldn't matter. Especially when I had the accident, it's like, okay, it's almost not even going to be a you anymore. So you might as well sit in this hospital and try to sing your own song, cause, And then today when I was coming here, I was putting my makeup on. I'm telling you, we have so much in common, because before we came across the street, she was putting her makeup on, having almost the same conversation with herself that I had with myself. But the conclusion I had come to is a lot of the unique looks started with a young person who said, what difference does it make? And that's how they liked it. They liked the spike eye or whatever.
And
they did it anyway. Or they like, I have a friend, a real light-skinned friend who likes, she puts this red lip liner and puts this like blue, glary, black lipstick. Everybody tells her, and then she puts a real dark fingernail polish. So everybody tells her, why do you do that? That's not becoming to you. But it is so her. That's like she was colored down. It is, because all the hope going in this building. But anyway, it is so her. She do it anyway. She has that when she come in a block away, you're gonna see those lips and you're gonna see those dark nails. But that was 10, 15 years ago, and now isn't that the trend?
Now that's exactly that's true.
And people pay money, big money for that. But that's why I was putting the makeup on. It's like, okay, no matter how you think it'll look, if it looks decent to you, go with it.
That's right.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rhonda, for having me. I'll give the website one last time. It's www.talaystovall.com, TALAYAHSTOVALL, and the book is called Light Bulb Moments, 75 Lessons for Everyday Living. It's available at any site online and will be in bookstores as of June 9th.
Okay, and I'll make sure I print the website on the thing, because I know some older people say, Rhonda, your people be talking too fast.
Right.
So I got you. So I'm going to put it in print, and then in addition to you seeing it here on the cable show, then afterwards I also upload it, so it will be on the website. and then, she'll get her version, so I'm sure you'll be able to see at least a portion of it on whatever stuff she promotes herself on.
All right.
So I thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
listening and joining us. I thank you for being so kind.
Thank you.
Okay, and then when her book come out, like I say, she's going to send me a clip of the cover so you'll know what to look for.
Yes.
And it's going to be sold, is it Amazon?
It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart. It's available all over the world. I went online and it's on websites in Chinese, Japanese, German, French. Hay House has it everywhere. So I'm
And if nothing else, just get the book so she can support her.
I appreciate it.
So even if you're not interested, just do it anyway.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I am going to